What is up, sports fans? Welcome to another episode of EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Schulte Horvath, coming to you live from Vancouver, BC, Canada. As always, before we get started, I have the pleasure of introducing some of my favorite sports enthusiasts joining me today. First off, from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, Brian Sonson.
What's going on, everybody? What's going on, Schulte? Happy to be here. It is a beautiful 105 degrees in sunny Las Vegas. The Knights lost, but hey, I'm a Bucks fan, so let's make it all the way to the finals.
All right. From Toronto, Ontario, Adian Pangalinan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Happy Independence Day to all of our Americans who will be tuning in after this episode.
From Seattle, Washington, we have Michael Hudson.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be here as always. Suns are in the finals, and we have 68 days until the NFL kickoff. Let's go.
Counting down. And finally, from Quezon City, Philippines, we have Ben Bernaldez.
What's up, sports fans? Bucks are one way away for going to the finals, Zolti.
Yeah, I'm sure Brian's pretty happy about that one. Thanks for joining us tonight. And again, before we go on, I just want to remind our viewers that we are by no means experts, but rather a good group of friends expressing our own opinions and sharing that same passion for sports. Now let's get started with some sports news. First up, Ben has some updates on Olympic qualifiers in Belgrade and Filipino athletes going to the Olympics.
Thanks, Zolti. After a close game versus the host country Serbia, Gilas Pilipinas' stint in the FIBA Olympic qualifying tournament ended on a bitter note early Friday, Philippine time, after suffering a 67-94 defeat at the hands of the Dominican Republic at the Alexander Nikolic Hall in Belgrade. The Dominicans shut down the Filipinos in the second half just as things looked promising for the young Gilas team come halftime. Gilas zoomed in the second quarter, beginning in the period with an 11-2 run to take a 33-25 lead halfway through the frame. The Dominican Republic, however, turned the tides late in the third quarter, finishing with a 14-2 rally of its own to take a 65-51 lead entering the fourth, where the team continued pulling away from there. Victor Liz put up 23 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals for the Dominican Republic, which booked the last semifinal berth for the tournament. Gelby Solano added 21 points, and also leading for Gilas Pilipinas, Jordan Heading with the 16 points, 1 board, 3 assists, and 1 steal. Since the Philippines first participated in the 1924 Paris Olympics, the country has been able to win a total of 10 medals, 3 silvers and 7 bronzes. The first was in 1928 edition with swimmer Teofilo Ildefonso's bronze in the men's 200-meter backstroke. Weightlifter Heidelin Diaz is the country's latest Olympic medalist, having won silver in the 2016 Rio Games. The Philippines Olympic Committee had said it's looking to send at least 16 athletes to the Tokyo Olympics, scheduled to take place from July 23rd to August 8th, and that mark has been surpassed, where the final list of the 19 Filipino athletes will be competing in Tokyo. Here are the list of the qualified Filipino athletes. Ernesto John Obiena, athletics men's pole vault. Carlos Yulo, gymnastic, artistic. Humor Marshall, boxing, men's middleweight. Irish Magno, boxing, women's flyweight. Nesty Petesio, boxing, women's featherweight. Carlo Paalam, boxing, men's flyweight. Heidelin Diaz, weightlifting, women's 55 kilogram. Chris Nievares, rowing, men's single sculls. Kurt Barbosa, taekwondo, men's 58 kilogram. Marjeline Didal, skateboard, women's street. Elrin Ando, weightlifting, women's 64 kilogram. Jason Valdez, shooting, men's air rifle, 10 meters. Juvic Pagunsan, men's golf. Christina Knott, athletics, women's 200 meters. Kiyomi Watanabe, judo, women's 63 kilograms. Bianca Pagdanganan, women's golf. Yuka Sasso, women's golf, who recently won the US Open. Remedy Rule, swimming, and Luke Gebi, swimming as well. And these are some of the dates here in Philippines. Back to you, Zolti.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Sticking with Olympic basketball, here's Mike with some Team USA news.
Thanks, Z. Appreciate it. So Team USA finalized their men's basketball roster this past week. And the team that will be representing the USA in the upcoming Olympics later this month in Tokyo. So here are the players representing the team, which is 12 of them. So you have Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat, Bradley Beal, Washington Wizards, Devin Booker, Phoenix Suns, who just made the NBA Finals, Kevin Durant, the best player on the planet. You have Jeremy Grant, Detroit Pistons, Draymond Green, Warriors, Jrue Holiday, Zach LaVine, Damian Lillard, Kevin Love, Chris Middleton, who's still playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics. And this team's going to be head coached by longtime San Antonio head coach Greg Popovich. This will be a pretty interesting team because they don't have much height or much size down low, but they do have enough firepower on the offensive end that will surely give opposing teams trouble. Back to you, Z.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. I feel like all the other teams are just playing for second at this point with the names you just announced. All right, next up, let's go to Brian with some updates from the NHL.
Thanks, Zolti. We are now 2 games deep into the Stanley Cup Finals. Tampa Bay takes a commanding 2-0 lead against the Montreal Canadiens in what looks like an uneven matchup. Tampa Bay goalie Andrei Vasilevsky has held opponents to 1 goal or less 11 out of 20 times in the playoffs. And for those who want to know the math, that is over 55% of the games in the playoffs alone. Now, Vasi has shown through this entire playoffs that he has remained one of the best goalies in the game. Now, let's hope and wait and see if he's going to be drafted by the Seattle Kraken. You never know. Now, center Nick Suzuki scored 1 goal for the Canadiens in the first period, but it was all Tampa Bay after that when Blake Coleman scored a buzzer-beating goal to end the second period. Montreal did not recover after that goal as the Lightning iced the game with yet another one scored by forward Andre Palat near the end of the third period. Tampa Bay has never lost a best-of-7 series after winning the first 2 games. Now, a little bit of an update. The Stanley Cup heads to Montreal right now as the Canadiens hope to even the series at home, and Tampa Bay is currently up 4-2 in the third period. And now it's not looking too good for them, but we'll wait and see, and let's hope that Montreal fights back and avoids an 0-3 deficit. Back to you, Zolti.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. And lastly, let's check out the racetrack with Adian and some news from F1.
Yes, thank you, Zolti. Max Verstappen dominated the race from beginning to end and saw really no trouble throughout the race. This was at the Austrian Grand Prix. He was ahead of the pack by more than 35 seconds when he crossed the finish line. And in second place was the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, who also earned the fastest lap of the race. This season, the Mercedes team is off to a slow start, and Verstappen and Red Bull are pulling away fast. After only 8 races, Verstappen leads the standings by 18 points. This is an unfamiliar place for Mercedes as they have won the world championship every year since 2014, and Hamilton has not lost 4 races in a row in more than 2 years. The season is still young, but Red Bull surely has the upper hand thus far. Lewis Hamilton said after the race, "Much of this season has been pretty good battle between the two of us with a very, very close performance of the cars," and added, "But obviously that has shifted." Red Bull Honda has taken a leap in performance this year, while it seems Mercedes upgrades have been targeted for next season rather than this season, according to team principal Toto Wolff. But Hamilton remains optimistic, stating, "We still got many races ahead of us and we need to keep pushing. We are world champions and we can definitely improve if we put our minds to it." Let's see if that's the case at the next race, the Australian Grand Prix. Back to you, Zolti.
Awesome. Thanks, Adian. That is all the sports updates that made headlines this week. We'll be right back after a short break and we'll talk some NBA. Don't go anywhere.
Only one spot remains sa ating Grand Finals. And as we draw closer and closer sa araw na yon, we decided to have our old favorites return to once again prove that they have what it takes to perform at the biggest stage of them all. It's our wildcard episode, and things are about to get crazy.
This program is supported by China Bank. Your success is our business.
The economy is still recovering from the past year, with businesses trying to stay afloat. MSMEs were the hardest hit sector of the COVID-19 crisis, but through resilience and grit, many small businesses have survived and even thrived during the pandemic. The new normal brought about innovation and a wave of digital transformation. Today, we'll find out how one business tapped into the power of digital technology to pivot its operations and survive the pandemic. Tatalakayin ito ni Randy Bernardino, ang ating OFB correspondent mula sa Las Vegas, kasama ng ating mga bisita mula sa Excel Systec Corporation. All these in this episode of Open for Business.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to EBC Sports International. I know it's been a couple of weeks since our last show, and the NBA playoff landscape has changed drastically. Let's start off with the conference final that has already concluded. The Phoenix Suns are going to the NBA Finals for the first time since then MVP Charles Barkley led them there in 1993. We all know how that ended. The Suns beat the Clippers 4-2 in their series, but not without controversy. Adian, I'm going to ask you first. The Clippers showed us some good things without Kawhi, but with his contract up, what does that mean for them, and how do they approach the offseason?
I think they've done a lot already. They bend it over backwards and even more to give him everything he needs. They acquired Paul George. They got all the picks. They traded Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And it was all for this moment to be able to reach the NBA Finals. So because they failed that goal, I feel like in whoever's eyes, whoever's looking at it, it's a failure to the entire organization. But I don't think Kawhi goes anywhere. I really do believe he's going to stay with the Clippers because what better situation is out there? He's made it known all along since 2018 even that he's wanted to play in LA, and now that he's here and that he's on a competitive team, I don't see why he leaves. I do think that the Clippers have some improvements to make in terms of this offseason. Serge Ibaka basically didn't play the entire playoffs. He didn't play a game at all, I should say. And I think that's one area that they need to improve on. So if they can upgrade his position at the center, because they've had to play basically small ball the entire playoffs, we'll see if they can get a little more size, a little more toughness. And I also got to shout out playoff P Paul George because he's finally lived up to his name. I think we owe him an apology? Absolutely not, because he's actually been pretty. He's been a poor playoff performer the past couple of seasons, but he deserves his flowers, at least for the past two series.
All right, so Ben, up until this season, the Suns have not won more than 34 games in a season since 2014, and now they're off to the finals. What happened to them this year? And I guess the end of last year, because we all saw the bubble run that they went on. What happened to them that made them gel so well?
Well, first of all, let's give credit where credit's due. And the Suns deserve to be in the finals. And it all started with James Jones, the current general manager. When he steps in as a GM, the Suns were doing poorly with the worst record in the 2018-2019 season, 1963 record. And also, when he came in, he replaced the former GM. His first job was to hire a new coach. Then he was able to hire Monty Williams and create a culture where a family of culture where the team could really connect with the coach. Because before, the young players like Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and Mikal Bridges, and other players has no connection with the former coach, and he lasted only for a season. And when Monty Williams, that's when the bubble, they had a great run. And there's one more piece that's missing for these young guns, a veteran who would really guide them and help them have that winning culture. And then Paul George came in, and also Jay Crowder. That's also done by James Jones. He orchestrated these deals and then this trade, and that's why they were able to come up with a better team that was able to beat the Lakers, sweep the Nuggets, and beat the Clippers and go into the finals. I think, and all that comes together. Then they have a great chemistry and also a recipe for a first NBA championship.
All right, Brian, on the other side of the bracket, the Bucks and Hawks are still going at it. Which of these two teams do the Suns match up better against?
Well, I have to say, Jolty, if both teams are healthy, then the Hawks match up so much better with the Suns, for the Suns, towards the Suns' favor. And what I mean by that is, well, there aren't that many great defenders on the Hawks who will be able to stop someone like Chris Paul or Devin Booker. When you look back at the series against the Clippers, you had defensive pests. We love to hate him, but Patrick Beverley really, really bothered Devin Booker whenever he matched up against him during the series. The same goes for even Reggie Jackson, who might not be known as a defensive stopper, but really played two-way basketball against them in the conference finals. Not to mention wing players like Paul George and Marcus Morris. Now, when you go up against the Hawks in the finals, that opens things up a little bit more. And, you know, the Suns' two top players will have a little bit more breathing room, especially when they operate on the floor, playing their bread and butter, their Spain pick and roll. Whether they go out to, you know, the shooters with Crowder and Bridges, or if they go out to the big with Ayton, it's going to be a lot easier for them. But if both are going to be without their best player, the Bucks without Giannis, the Hawks without Trae Young, then they match up so much better against the Bucks, because without Giannis, you know, the Bucks offense tends to stagnate very frequently, as we've seen. Game 5 was a bit of an anomaly with Brook Lopez scoring like 33, 34 points. But I mean, that he reminded us how great of a player he was back in Brooklyn. But the thing is, you know, without Giannis, it really does stagnate their offense, especially when Drew Holiday is not going, when Chris Middleton is not going. They've been known to be really streaky in the playoffs so far. So I would give it to the Bucks if you know, they're without their star players. But if they're all healthy, then yes, the Hawks would be a better matchup.
All right, Mike, I will get to you in a second. Brian, I do want to ask you another question though, because Adian was saying how Kawhi is most likely going to stay in LA, but off camera, you know, in between takes, you were saying that you think the Clippers should blow up the team. You want to elaborate on that?
No, I was just kidding, man. I was just kidding. But people like to overreact to things. I mean, now it's 2 straight years without a championship, and they have been saying like it's championship or bust. Of course it has been. I mean, you have 2 of the top defensive players in the league on the same team. But I mean, Kawhi is not going to be going anywhere. It would be a rather weird choice. I mean, he's unpredictable. You know, he's a fun guy, but he's not going to be going anywhere, I don't think. But they will be making some big moves for sure, whether it be to keep Reggie Jackson, put him in a respectable deal, you know, like maybe some like Kyle Kuzma type deal, not like a Dennis Schroeder type of deal. But if they do that, they're going to add some more pieces, you know, get rid of some other players so that Kawhi Leonard can stay.
All right, Mike, before I ask you what I wanted to ask you, is there any chance that Kawhi flips and goes to the Lakers?
Oh, I sure hope not. But I mean, I just don't see how that's possible. I mean, Lakers have no assets to give up. I mean, even if they gave up everybody but AD and LeBron, that still isn't enough. I mean, Kawhi is proved time and again this season that he's easily one of the top 5 players in the league, playing both ends of the floor, having huge games, especially in the semifinals, or not in the semifinals, I'm sorry, the first round in games 5 and 7. being able to beat the Mavericks in that matter. But, Kawhi's a top-notch player. I'll have to agree with Brian that he's extremely unpredictable, and we'll just have to see what happens this summer.
All right, so now to the question that I've been wanting to ask you for the last, few minutes now. Towards the end of Game 6, I know he's your favorite player, Patrick Beverley, shoved Chris Paul from the back in a clear cheap shot, but later apologized on Instagram. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the shove, the apology, and a potential punishment.
Oh man, where do I start? So, with the shove, at the end of the day, that's a punk move. I mean, it's one thing to keep dishing out the trash talk that Patrick Beverley is extremely good at doing that, especially when his team is ahead. I mean, it goes back to the bubble when, Damian Lillard missed those 2 free throws against them, and he's just flapping his gums the entire game. He does it so much, but when things don't go his way, you definitely see his true colors. For me, when I first saw it, I was worried that Chris Paul hurt himself, that he actually tweaked his ankle.
He was down for at least a minute. So
or he hit his head on someone's knee. Can you imagine if he had a significant injury and he basically just ended his playoff run with just a cheap shot like that? With the Instagram post, I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed, but he had the finger cross emoji at the end after his.
So good luck, and then with the fingers crossed.
Apology. And we all know Patrick Beverley's track record. I mean, the guy does a lot of he grazes the fine line of going overboard or playing conservatively. Starts back with Russell Westbrook. I mean, if it wasn't for that, Patrick Beverley wouldn't have the reputation that he has today. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Chris Paul definitely took the high road. I think he did probably say something before the shove, especially when he was going off. But I mean, it's for good reason. Basketball is going to be a game of trash talk and physicality and just seeing who's going to take their game to the next level. And CB3 obviously did that when it counted most. Patrick Beverley didn't like it, and so he acted in a way that was just very, very immature.
Ben, I'm sure you saw the shove as well. What are your thoughts on that?
That's like what the Mike said, it's the punk move of the year for any sport. I think we saw the game, Chris Paul didn't say anything. He just walked by Patrick Beverley and just shoved him. And I'm glad Paul did not have any injury, but because of you can get an injury from that. He should have not done that. Just an excuse that his anger his emotion get the best of him. I think no one should be able to do that in a professional game. But I wouldn't choose Kaminsky as my bodyguard or my teammate if that happens. That's the only reaction I have. Kaminsky didn't do anything. He was just in awe that would happen. But I think, and I don't feel the sincerity of Patrick Beverley's apology on Twitter. I think he should do it in another way. Definitely, he'll get suspended next season for this and other fines. And it's a very dangerous move from Patrick Beverley.
So, Adian, that's what I wanted to ask you real quick. Do you think the league should step in and do anything to Patrick Beverley for this?
I believe it's already announced. I'm not sure it's official, but he's going to get suspended for next season, and deservedly so. When you
said the first 10 games, first 5 or 10 games this season.
First 5 or 10 games for a push? Wow. No, I didn't expect to do that.
Hold on. Now it's flipping around because you were all about the league stepping in, and now you're on the other side.
Wait, 5 to 10 games? I understand maybe a game.
Anywhere between 5 and 10.
We've seen players throw punches and they've only been suspended a game. So that's why I'm surprised. I think it's harmful and I think he deserves the punishment, but I'm a little surprised that it's more than potentially 5 games. Whatever. If the NBA deems it fit that he also based on his track record that he's injured people in the past. I guess 5 games is deserving.
And you have to realize that CP3 is like the Players Association like president too. So
you know what? CP3 in some ways asks for it. Okay. I know you guys in some ways agree with me because he's an irritant on the court. He's flopping around. He's pretending like every time he gets nudged, he's getting shot by like a sniper rifle. It's crazy how much he sells calls. And I can see why Beverly would have gotten so upset to the point that he would push him. But in those type of situations, man, you got to keep your cool.
All right. Great conversation, guys. We'll shift to the Eastern Conference Finals, which are still going on after a quick break. EBC Sports International will be right back.
Ang hangad mo ba sa buhay ay matamis na tagumpay? Pwede mong subukan ang bee farming.
Hindi lang sa Pilipinas, sa ibang parte ng Asia hanggang northern part ng Australia, merong stingless bees.
Isa din yan, titingnan mo kung wala bang matatamaan na mga bahay, walang mapapasukan na bintana ng kapitbahay.
Busy as a bee ang mangyayari dahil ang puhunan din sipag at diskarte.
Ito naman ho ay napakasimple din gawin. No? Ito ay mula sa beeswax. Dito, magde-demo naman tayo ng kung paano hinaharvest yung honey ng Apis mellifera.
Nakuha ko yung mga kailangan ko doon dito sa bubuyog.
Kung saan niya kayong bibigyan ng pagkakitaan?
Kikita ka pag naalagaan mo sila ng tama.
Ako po si Robin Padilla at ito po ang ulan. Kagapay sa hanap buhay.
Welcome back to EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Schulte Horvath, coming from Vancouver, BC, Canada. While the West has already been decided with the Phoenix Suns punching their ticket to the NBA Finals, the battle in the East still continues. The Atlanta Hawks and Milwaukee Bucks are going back and forth, even without some of their stars. Trae Young has missed the last 2 games with a deep bone bruise, while Giannis left Game 4 with a knee injury and has not played since. Mike, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the series so far and the potential outcome if these two can't play?
Thoughts on the series so far? Well, so far it's just showed me how inconsistent both teams are. I mean, you have 2 teams that really shouldn't really even be here. I mean, the Bucks, if James Harden's 100%, I mean, let's be real, Nets win that series pretty easily. And then with the Hawks, I mean, they do deserve to be there. They've been playing some amazing basketball. They defeated the Knicks pretty handily. And the upset of the year would have to be when they defeated the 76ers. Total choke job by the 76ers. And we discussed that in previous episodes. But at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to, who's going to be the better defensive team. Obviously, the Bucks have size because they have Robin Lopez there, manning the paint. Giannis is out, but I feel like last game they were able to move the ball pretty well without him there. I mean, I feel like when Giannis is there, it's kind of like a black hole situation where he gets the ball and he's just going to attack all night. Last night, it really proved that they can move the ball well and also have a better, well-rounded game as far as scoring the basketball and playing defense. I think the key is the same 2 guys. That's the key in every series is Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday. The Bucks go as they go. So if they play well tomorrow in tomorrow's game, they'll definitely close out the series. On the other side of the coin, the Hawks, they have to hit their threes. I mean, that's kind of like been the overall theme for the entire playoffs for them is when they shoot the ball well, they tend to win every game. And I think John Collins remains the X factor for them as well. He has to play well. He started out 0 for 5 in game 5. I'm sorry, and so that really affected hit the momentum for the Atlanta Hawks. And but kudos to the Hawks, man, especially Nate McMillan. I mean, for him to instill the belief into them every single game, even without Trae Young, to be able to go in there and defeat the Bucks. It's a pretty incredible feat. For me, I would love to see the Hawks in the NBA Finals. So I have them in 7. So if they can shoot the 3-ball well, there's no doubt in my mind that they can get it done.
I should mention, I didn't mention it in the intro, but I think the Bucks are leading 3-2.
Just one game.
With one game left for the Bucks. They can make it to the NBA Finals. Brian, we'll move on to you. What are your thoughts on the series so far? I know a lot of us, we felt that the Hawks were going to be almost lost without Trae Young, and they ended up beating the Bucks in Game 4. What are your thoughts on the series so far?
Yeah, that game was a complete collapse that exposed all of the weak points of the Bucks and their offense. When Middleton, like we said before, when Middleton and Drew Holiday aren't going, then the team has nothing. So, which is the reason why they paid them so much money. When Giannis paired with Middleton and Drew Holiday, Giannis is not supposed to be that closer. He's not that guy. He is the Shaq, and I hate to say this and compare Middleton and like Drew Holiday to Kobe, right? Those two are supposed to be the closers. And if those guys aren't closing, if they're not putting up, if they're not making their shots, then the game is lost, as we've seen. But either way, it doesn't look like Trae Young is going to be coming back. Who knows? It's a grade 2 ankle sprain that could take weeks. We don't really know a timetable on him. As far as Giannis goes, he's out for Game 6. He has a game time decision for Game 7, so we'll see. But what we have learned from this series so far is that Giannis, as elite of a player as he is, and a future Hall of Famer, 2-time MVP, he can't really be that guy that will close the game in the fourth quarter. Maybe you can rely on him for like a jump shot or two, but as we've seen, he still needs a lot of work. They kind of joke with him, especially in the Atlanta home court, where they just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 when he's shooting his free throws. And I really think that honestly, either team will be great, will be historic. Because how many years has it been since the Bucks has won a championship? How many years has it been since the Hawks has ever won a championship? So it's historic either way.
That is if they win the championship. There's still another team on the other side, the Phoenix Suns, that they have to beat once they make it through this, and potentially without their star players. Right. So Adian, we'll move on to you. What are your thoughts on the series? And what's going to happen in the finals if these stars can't play?
My thoughts on the series: it's a sad series. Trae Young is out, Giannis is out. Those are the only two guys that we really want to watch on these teams. But Middleton, that's one guy I've been impressed by. I've seen series where he's kind of just got shut down. And Giannis has tried to do everything on his own. He's tried to put the team on his back, but he just doesn't have, I think, that killer mentality yet. I think it's something he needs to develop, or he needs somebody on the team to help him out with that. And Middleton has somewhat stepped up, and I think that's actually really good for his reputation, because he wasn't really known as a superstar in this league. And I'm not saying he's there. He was named an all-star in the past, but he's really showed me more than just being like a corner, a guy to just catch and shoot pretty much. He's handling the ball more. He's basically taking charge of the offense, telling guys where to go, where to give them picks. And that's actually been really impressive on my end here. And when I look at the Hawks, I see Bogdanović. He's one guy that I really think would have helped the Bucks if that deal went through and he went there. But he's been lights out as a shooter, and he's just been a great second option to Trae Young. Seeing him thrive when he's been basically suffering with the Kings all these years is actually I'm really happy to see it. But this run by Atlanta, it's a very unlikely run. Nobody saw it happening. And the fact that they're here, the fact that they've taken 2 games on the Bucks, who were a top 3 favorite in the East, I mean, that's impressive on its own. So no matter the outcome, I feel like they should be proud. And with that being said, if I'm going to predict somebody to go through, it's going to be the Bucks in Game 7. And if Giannis plays, I do feel like they'll have a pretty good chance against the Suns, although I think the Suns are favored. It's just because the Bucks don't have enough offense, and if the Hawks were to make it, I just don't think they have enough defense. So I'm going to predict the Suns win the NBA Finals. Something I never thought I'd ever say.
All right, Ben, we'll move on to you. What are your thoughts on the series so far, and who wins this series?
Let's start with the starting lineup, the Bucks. Everyone stepped up in Game 5. They had 4 different 20-point scorers. Middleton, Holiday took turns in running the offense and got the ball moving. Portis provided a big unexpected boost, and Brook Lopez really stepped up in absence of Giannis. One key factor, however, was that the Bucks absolutely dominated the paint, and the Hawks couldn't do about their interior defense. And Hawks, they were outscored 66-36 and shot an outstanding 23 of 27 at the rim. There's plenty of stats you can choose from, but this one really tells the story that the Hawks were outgunned and outnumbered and outmuscled in the interior. And that also, Coach Nate McMillan couldn't explain what happened in Game 5. Everyone really stepped up in Bucks starting lineup. And Hawks, without Trae Young, they have no outside shooting, only one person, and they also have problem with their outside shooting, and thus the Bucks were able to dominate them in Game 5. If the Bucks play the way they played in Game 5, the Hawks is in trouble, and Bucks would definitely go to the NBA Finals. And if it goes to Game 7, I think Giannis might play if it goes to Game 7, but I think with the way it's going, I'm going for Bucks facing the Suns in the NBA Finals.
All right, Brian, we'll swing back to you because you mentioned earlier this episode that you're a Bucks fan, which I didn't know, but now I do. So I might as well ask you. 2 years ago, Bucks were number 1 in the East. They were supposed to win the NBA title, lost to Toronto, right? Last year, they were number 1 in the East, supposed to win the NBA title, lost to Miami. This year, I know they were 3rd, but right now, I mean, they're the best team in the East. If they lose these next few games to Atlanta and they're out, what do they do with their team?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one because they've locked themselves into so many expensive contracts. They played a gamble by signing an aging 30-year-old and Drew Holiday to a max contract, and that is going to be hard. It's going to be hard for them to make any moves at all, aside from the veteran minimums and the MLE exceptions. It's going to be tough. I mean, you can always sign a ring-chasing, sharpshooting veteran like we have with PJ Tucker. You can always sign someone like Bryn Forbes, but they still need that someone else that will never shy away from the moment. We've seen a little bit of that with Chris Middleton. I'll give him a little bit more credit. I mean, yes, he has disappointed in the past couple of years, but he had probably the best game of his career in this series, I think in Game 4. That was before Giannis went down, where he was just automatic. I think that was the game where Trae Young went down for that sprain when he tripped on that ref's shoe. But, I mean, he was just unconscious. So he has proven that he can turn it up in the playoffs. So, I mean, I don't think any of those players are going to be on the trade block. Drew just got there, so he's not going anywhere. But who knows? They might make a drastic decision because they're going to be doing their best to keep Giannis, to keep him from going anywhere else. I'm pretty sure during the offseason we're going to hear some rumors here and there. That's going to be exciting. Like he's going to go to somewhere like Dallas or something, or like Golden State. But either way, I know that they're going to try their best to keep Giannis happy. And I don't think this is just the year. This won't be the year where he's going to just say, okay, you know what, I've had enough, I'm going to leave. I give it one more year. And if they don't at least make it to the finals for next year, then I want to say he's going to leave.
All right. So Adian, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think, I mean, I know he said there's a lot of, expensive, big contracts, long-term contracts in Milwaukee, but I mean, they got to do something, right? Like they've just been not living up to the expectations.
I think a lot of the blame would have to be on Middleton because of his past playoff performances, and also Coach Budenholzer. I think in the past playoff series, he showed that he's not a very flexible coach. He played one way during the regular season, and then when it came time for the playoffs, that way wouldn't work, and he still kept trying to reinforce that one strategy, that one way, and it just never worked. So I think if they're going to make a big change, it's going to be one with Coach Budenholzer, and if they do decide to go with a trade route, it's going to be trading Chris Middleton. I just don't think you can get anything back of equal value or even better value. You're going to have to attach picks, which they don't have because that was all gone in the Drew Holiday trade. So if they're locked into these three guys, that's also not a bad thing because you consider that Milwaukee is a small market in this league. And the fact that they have three guys that are kind of sub all-stars, but also one megastar in Giannis, that's a big win for this city. And I mean, a lot of franchises would trade places with Milwaukee in a heartbeat.
All right, good stuff, guys. We do have to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Samahan sina Wedge Kujamat,
itong balitang panggising sa ulo ng mga balita.
Apple David,
Sa 60 katao ang isinugod sa ospital.
Phoebe Publico
Economic sabotage ang mga tiwaling negosyante.
at Cristel Fesalbon
Pagpresyo ng gulay, makakausap natin
para ihatid sa inyo ang mga kaganapan at pangyayari sa bansa at sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo. Mga napapanahong isyu ng bayan. May balitang sports, entertainment at iba pang kaalaman. Simula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 5 ng umaga sa paborito nyong morning show, Pambansang Almusal, dito sa Net25.
Pambansang Almusal.
Welcome back to EBC Sports International. The NCAA, which is the college ruling committee in the United States, they ruled to allow its student athlete to monetize their name and likeness, which came into effect on July 1st. And there were a ton of athletes already starting yesterday announcing their sponsorship deals, from PetSmart to Subway, even to a sandal company. All corners of business are turning to these athletes for advertising. And it's not only football and basketball players as most expected, volleyball players, college rowers, and even track athletes are all getting in on the money. Mike, is this a good thing for college sports?
Oh, 100%. I absolutely love it. And one of the biggest reasons why I love it so much is because it provides another stream of income for these athletes in the rare case that they can't make it to the highest level. So like you mentioned, you have rowers, you have volleyball players, you have golfers, you probably have people that play, do swimming, all these sports that normally wouldn't get endorsement deals, like the football players and the basketball players. They have the opportunity to make some type of money to accommodate their type of living now. I mean, we're in a new age. YouTube is huge. Instagram is huge. Facebook is huge. You have all these platforms where you can monetize and reach out and touch so many people's lives, and they're going to be able to do that. One of the biggest, so another reason why I love it so much is another thing is that it's going to teach these athletes the entrepreneurial skills that they need. It's going to help them to market themselves. It's going to help them to sell themselves a lot better, which is a very much needed skill, especially in this life, and especially because technology is growing so much. And thirdly, it's going to be able to just create an opportunity for them to succeed. Injuries happen. You have other things outside of an athlete's control that happen. Maybe they don't get drafted. Maybe they have some other health issues that go on, and they can't play in the NBA or the NFL. They can capitalize on these endorsement deals that they're getting and just make a living off of that. And it's just so sad when you see athletes that don't make it and they end up getting a $30,000 per year job, flipping hamburgers or selling cars or what have you. So I really think this is a great thing. I'm so happy for the student athletes to be able to capitalize on this. And like I said, during commercial break, if I can graduate high school and join the military and get paid, $50,000-$60,000 a year, why can't college athletes?
Absolutely. Adian, what are your thoughts on this new legislation, this new rule that came into play yesterday?
Yeah, everything that Mike said, I agree with. I really don't understand the argument against why college athletes are not getting paid in the first place. I've been actually trying to do my own research. Why are college athletes not being paid? I Googled that, and I haven't found an article written since 2013, which tells me that it's been about 7, 8 years too late. They probably should have instated this rule more than a decade ago. I can't understand why college athletes weren't being paid when you see colleges just banking on it. They're making billions of dollars. I think in 2019, it was reported they made $14 billion on just like total revenue for college. And that's not including endorsement deals and TV deals and that type of thing. That's a lot of money that's going to the people that are already rich and wealthy and not going to those who are actually doing the most to sell the product. That's the athletes playing the sports, promoting the sport during, March Madness or even college football season. It's unbelievable to me that it hasn't happened sooner, but I'm glad it is. And it's a great opportunity for these athletes to really get their name out there, not just because of sports, but also because of other talents that they might have. Maybe that's being an entrepreneur, a video maker on YouTube, a TikTok influencer. I do agree with Mike. It's a great opportunity for these young people to show their entrepreneurship skills. So the only thing I do kind of worry about is if we go back and look at all of the past teams and players that have been successful at the college level, are they going to be asking for more money? Are they going to be asking to get, like we've seen that Reggie Bush situation play out where he wants his Heisman back? Is there going to be more of this type of conversation going on? I think it's interesting, and I want to see how that goes.
All right. Well, speaking of that, Brian, do you think this is a good thing for college football? And in addition to that, should Reggie Bush get his Heisman back?
He should get it back, man. Just give it back to him. He just, come on. It's a trophy. It symbolizes what he gave to his college, what he represents. It was just his humble beginnings, and I think it's more of a sentimental thing to him at this point. But it's kind of petty for you to just kind of withhold that to him. But as for college athletes finally getting paid, yes, absolutely, all on board with that. It's about time. College age students and athletes get that power, get that freedom to finally make some money for themselves rather than being restricted to having to wait until you possibly make it in the league. I mean, it's such an unpredictable future for them, especially when it comes to their health, when it comes to their injuries. With dangerous sports like football, you never know what's going to happen, and they're not going to get paid for that. Like the value that they provide through entertainment is as equal, is as is as, you know, what you would get if you were to watch a professional sports organization like with the NBA or the NFL. So why not have them get paid to proportional to the value that they give? Even just a little bit of a stipend to at least cover all of their expenses for their tuition, instead of them thinking, the higher ups who are controlling, all of the money in college sports. They think of stadiums and endorsements and advertisements for just the sport itself as an asset, but when they think of the athletes, they think of them as, oh, they're just cogs in the machine or whatever, what have you. So I'd rather it would be good for them to get some kind of exposure, especially as young as they are, to having that freedom to make money for themselves, like what Mike said, ADN said, so that they can kind of have a step ahead, especially when it comes to their future. They might not want to get into sports when they get older. They might want to do something else. So why not let them have that freedom?
Awesome. Ben, we only have a minute left. What are your thoughts on this real quick?
Oh, first of all, I think the NCAA couldn't avoid the pressure from the state houses. And of course, the Supreme Court ruled against NCAA. That's why they were able to grant this and change this law. And also, if the NCAA wanted to fight this, they would probably have more problems, and they will be more susceptible to litigation. And I guess it's time for them to give what's best for the athletes as well. And not only the association would earn more money, but also give a chance for these student athletes to earn their living as well, if they don't pursue to be professionals. Like what Mike said earlier, there were athletes that they chose just to do their YouTube channel and not pursue their career because they can earn more money with their social media accounts. I think it's the best for the athletes as well. And I think NCAA eventually will be able to benefit from this because they will avoid more litigation and lawsuits from these athletes.
Awesome. Great takes, guys. And this brings us to our last part of the show, the question of the week. With the Olympics around the corner, let's set this scenario. You qualified for the Olympics to represent your country. What event are you competing in, Ben?
For me, I'll try triathlon. So I've joined these races, and I would want to try how does it feel to play in the biggest stage in the world of sports, the Olympics. Triathlon would be the event for me.
Awesome. Adian?
Any team sport. Give me volleyball or soccer. Anything where I can ride the better players' coattails.
All right. Brian?
If it were for Team Philippines, it would be diving because I've seen our competitors and they're not that great. So I'm pretty sure I could do better. And if it were to be Team USA, it would be weightlifting.
All right. And Mike?
It'd have to be decathlon. So the 10 events for the track and field has to be track related, man.
Awesome. Great stuff, guys. That's all the time we have for this week's edition of EBC Sports International. On behalf of everyone on our panel, thank you so much for joining us. And be sure to tune in again next week. Make sure you visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Eagle News PH to join the conversation. For Eagle News, I'm Shulte Horvath. We live in interesting times.